Welcome back. You've made it through to Movie Week, and this week I'm asking you to think about geography in the context of cinema. Now, there are lots of different ways that we could do that. We could think about the geography of the movie industry itself. We could think about movies from around the world, Japanese cinema, American cinema, French cinema. We could look at movies about specific places. I could show you out of Africa and we could just focus on that one movie, or you could pick movies of your own about particular locations that you're interested in. There's that way of thinking about the geography of movies. We could think about films that cover specific geographical topics, whether those are social issues, environmental issues, particular types of landscape and so on. Or we could look, and this is a very common way for academics to look at cinema, we could look at how movies reflect the preoccupations of the people that are making the movies, the societies within which those people live, or the preoccupations of the people to whom these movies are going to be marketed. Why do people make movies about certain topics? What are the issues that the people that are going to be watching the movies are interested in, and how can you sell movies to those people? And is there a geographical component either to the decision making in that marketing, or a geographical component to the topics that are then popular with people watching certain types of movies? So there are lots of different ways in which we can think about geography and cinema in the same breath. I'm not going to cover all of that, but be aware of all those different possibilities, and maybe some of you are already engaging with some of those as part of the project that you're doing for this module. So there are lots of ways of using cinema as a way of seeing more in landscape, or as a way of seeing more in our own views of, as geographers, of the everyday world around us. By looking at movies, well, it's like we've talked about previously in the module, looking at any kind of art helps us to understand more about not only the topic of the art, but also about our own ways of looking at that topic. Helps us to see more. Remember Proust. So this module is all about finding the geography in your other interests. Outside of geography, outside of university, outside of academia, there are going to be loads of things that you're all interested in. I'm not going to pretend to be able to guess the kinds of different interests and hobbies that you have outside of geography. Music, sport, dance, gaming, I don't know, all sorts of different things I'm sure that you're going to be interested in. And amongst those, maybe cinema. Now, often when I'm talking about these different topics and saying, oh, you can do geography to this, you can do geography to that, I know a lot of you get unhappy if I don't talk about your own particular favourite interests. So I know that this week loads of you are going to be unhappy because I'm not talking about your favourite film or your favourite genre. But that's deliberate. There's a reason for me doing that. So when I've talked about Mahler earlier in the module, I'm sure I haven't really talked very much about your particular favourite bands or your particular favourite musicians or singers. And when I talk about music, I might talk about, I don't know, Gustav Mahler or Barry Manilow or Frank Sinatra, precisely because I'm guessing that they aren't already your favourites. And so partly it's nice to introduce you to things that you maybe weren't familiar with, but also I'm choosing examples that you might not already know much about that can be used to bring up big ideas that I want you to then go away and apply to things that you do already know about, or that you are already interested in. And even if you were going to say if you were going to do your project on some particular band, well, it kind of ruins it if I give a lecture about exactly the thing that you're going to be doing your project on, because it makes it much harder for you to do something interesting about something original about that project if I've just given you a lecture all about it. And also you're going to know more, I'm sure, about your particular area of special interest than I do. So you don't need me to give you a lecture on something that you already have a great interest in and already know something about. So I'm using different examples to bring up the big ideas that I want you to apply to your examples. And that's the kind of point of the whole point of this module, is for you to take your favourite topics and to do your own exploring on those based on the big ideas or the themes that we've introduced in the sessions. And you do that not by listening to me talking about the thing that you're already interested in, but through your projects that you're working on, or through your follow-up reading and work each week. That's kind of the idea about how this module works. I talked to you about some geography in the context of some random topic relevant to a theme that we're dealing with, and then you say, ah, right, I can apply that to my mountain biking, my music, my environmental issues that I'm interested in, whatever it might be, your particular interest or hobby. You take what I've been talking about, so it was boring the way what he was doing wasn't that wasn't really what I'm interested in, but I can take that idea and I'll do what he did, but I'll do it to my particular topic or interest. So now, talking about cinema, I'm going to avoid contemporary cinema and popular movies and things that I'm going to guess that you might already know about and that you're probably hoping I'll be talking about, because you can turn your work onto those yourselves. You don't need me to lead you by the hand into that. You can do that for yourself after I've talked about some of the big issues. So instead of talking about movies that lots of you will already know lots about, I'm going to use old westerns as my case study, not just to annoy you, but because they're really useful for getting straight into some of the big geographical themes that apply to lots of different movie genres. So I can quickly, with westerns, explain a lot of big ideas, and you can then take those big ideas and apply them to your own particular favourite genre, or your own particular favourite director or actor or set of movies. And that's the idea, that you take what I do with old westerns and you do the same thing to your favourite genre. So you might be interested in horror or sci-fi or Afrofuturism or 1960s French avant-garde or contemporary Korean feminist cinema. I've no idea what kind of movies you're interested in, what kind of cinema you're interested in. But your mission is to think about how I find the geography in the westerns I'm talking about, and then you go and find geography in that same way for yourselves in your own genre, or even just in an individual film or an individual movie. So before I talk to you for a little bit in the next video about westerns, here's an exercise that I want you to do to start this week off before you go on and listen to what I'm going to say about my westerns example. So here's the exercise. What I'd like you to do is think about a particular type of film, a genre, or maybe a director that you like, or a set of movies that star a particular individual. Maybe pick a genre like sci-fi or horror or Afrofuturism or romantic comedies, whatever you like, whatever kind of movies you like. Take that genre and think about how that genre could in any way relate to the big ideas and themes that you're already now familiar with as geographers. So for that type of film, list the aspects of that type of film that strike you as being specifically geographical. Is there anything particularly geographical, or any geographical themes that commonly crop up in sci-fi and horror, in romantic comedy, whatever it might be? So for example, in space movies like the Star Treks, you might pick out the theme of exploration, or you might pick out race relations if you like Avatar, or social hierarchies if you watch Titanic or The Great Gatsby or something like that. Whatever you think are big geographical issues, whether you think it's to do with space, place, environment, social relations, natural landscapes, or whatever geography is to you, see if you can think how those ideas, how that theme features within your particular movie genre. That's the first thing. Movie genre, think about how it contains or relates to geography, and make a list, write things down. Make a list of the connections you can find between geography and your genre. That's the first thing. The second thing I'd like you to do is choose a specific individual movie. Presumably pick one of your favourites. I'm going to ask you to watch it twice, so pick a movie that you like, and pick one that you have access to either online or on a DVD, or that's available on YouTube or something. And just immediately now, after this, just go and watch that movie. And while you're watching it, have your notebook open and just jot down everything you see that is geography, or that could be geography, or that relates to geography, or that you think I might have picked up on if I was watching the movie with you in class and saying, oh, look at this, look at that, look at that, look at this geography, look at that geography, isn't that geographical? And just try to knock the geography out of that movie, write it down in your book, and see how much geography you can find. And I'd like you to do that, do both of those exercises, the thinking about the genre and the watching of a particular movie. Do that next, before you move on through the rest of the resources for this week. After you've watched after you've thought about what goes into what geography there is in the genre, and after you've watched a movie and taken some notes on the geography that you can spot, then carry on with the rest of the resources in this session. And what I'm going to do right at the end of all of that, after I've talked about westerns and so on, I then want you to go back and re-watch the film that you're going to watch in a minute, your favourite movie where you're writing down the notes about where the geography is in it. I'd like you to do that again after the week's sessions, just to see whether you can find more geography in it, having worked through the example, the Westerns example, as I'm going to do with you in this week's work. So make sure it's a movie that you're happy to watch at least a couple of times, because I want you to go away and watch it straight away now and just take some notes. Then come back later in the week and we'll talk about Westerns as an example. Hopefully I'll give you some ideas, and you can take those ideas away and then re-watch your movie with those ideas in the back of your mind, or even in the front of your mind, and see if you can see more, because that's what this module is all about. You see the world, you see stuff, you do this module, you think about the ideas, you go away, and hopefully maybe you see things a little bit differently, or you see a little bit more in the world around you. So this as we're heading towards the end of the module now, this is a nice little exercise to see if you can do that, and to see if what you're studying, all the hard work that you're doing in this module, if it's paying off in terms of helping you to see things differently in the world around you and in the movies about the world around you. Okay, I'll see you later in the week after you've gone and watched a movie. Stick something up on Facebook or Twitter or on discussion boards telling us what movies you're watching.